so much deeper than we often think on a daily basis, right? I often talk about content in general, and I don't like the word content because it sounds so medical. It sounds like a procedure, but creativity, right? I often talk about that, and I say, the first creativity, right now we talk about movies and music and whoever jumping on stage, but the first content was, after a long day in the fields farming, or a long day hunting, was sitting around with your family and talking at night and telling stories, right? So you bring that forward till today in all the ways we do it, and the perception of Nigeria, the perception of Africa around the world is changing slowly, very slowly, right? And we've got to continue finding those who have passion for creativity, creating as much space for them as possible to be able to do the work that's needed, and giving them as much support as possible. Again, I love the idea of that, the power of creativity. One of the things I talk about a lot is that 25 or 30 years ago, our parents, and I'm not talking about mine specifically, but in general, our parents would talk to us about being a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer. We all know that story. And we felt that those were the only options. Yeah. Nowadays we have in fact, in the music industry, I have parents coming to me constantly, my child can sing, come and put them out. Just, you are my destiny, which we don't really, that one puts a little bit of undue pressure on us as individuals, but I think about that same 25 or 30 years ago, a kid in my village would only think that he could maybe become a better farmer than his dad. Or if he was good at trading, maybe he could become, one of the bigger traders in the village, market. But now that same kid in the village, all across Africa, believes he can be a world superstar, right? And that's the power of the soft power that creativity has.
All right, thank you so much for that. Very important point you made there, because definitely the creative sector is a very important sector when you look at the skills and also the career path these days. Let me bring Donna into the conversation, Donna, and get your take on the conversation. Yeah, we've definitely seen the work that the British Council has been doing over the years, and I'd love you to speak to that. What lessons can be drawn from building sustainable creative ecosystems?
Thank you so much. And I would love to say, first of all, thanks a million for allowing me to be on this panel, or inviting me to be on the panel in such august company, especially as a relatively recent arrival to Nigeria. So, so it's great to hear the real stories from very impressive people, so thank you. And yes, to respond to your question, the British Council, we've been in Nigeria for over 80 years, and the wider sub-Saharan Africa region for 80 years. So working with so many creatives, creative organizations, different types of artists across music, film, fashion, and beyond, we have picked up quite a few insights, and we're continuing to learn. And I would say that I would probably highlight maybe 3 interrelated areas. So, first of all, the importance of really focusing on the entirety of the value chain. So maybe picking up a wee bit what Conley was saying as well. One-off interventions aren't going to work in terms of ensuring sustainable creative enterprises. And of course, grants and education and skills development is important, and that's an area that those are areas that we focus on. But looking at the wider policy framework and enabling environment, and also looking at intercultural, international collaboration and access to market are absolutely essential. So whenever we're planning our programs, whether fashion, film, music, we do focus on the grant aspect and the skills development and the education aspect. But it's really important to ensure that all of those creatives have an opportunity to engage internationally and have an opportunity to access that international market. So, you know, for example, we've been working with a number of designers in some of the fashion programs. We've had them showcase their work at London Fashion Week, Africa Fashion Week in London, the Creative Africa Nexus, and not so long ago we facilitated a delegation of designers to go to the Inter-Africa Trade Fair, including a number from Nigeria, and that enabled them to platform and showcase their work in the midst of international buyers from, retail buyers from Canada, Australia, Europe, and some of them were able to ensure distribution deals. And that's something that's, you know, really important. And I was, whenever you were talking, Kunle, about film's another area that we're working on, as I'm sure, well, I hope you know. we will talk afterwards. And that's an area in terms of our Film Lab Africa program too. You know, we have supported emerging filmmakers, we have supported with skills development, and now we're really concentrating a bit more on that whole exposure to the wider market and distribution, and that's what's really important. And then there's another two things I would like to add. So I touched on the enabling environment, so really ensuring that wider enabling environment. It goes beyond the creative, you know, when you think about the creative infrastructure, it's not just the space, it's not just the physical space, it's the, you know, it's the legal framework, it's the financing, it's the policy aspect to all of that, you know, the intellectual property. So there was a cultural fluency or cultural vibrancy index that we worked on a couple of years ago with CC Hub and another organization, which I cannot remember. And it was looking at cities across sub-Saharan Africa, and Lagos came out first in terms of, you know, topped the rankings in terms of the intellectual property and innovation, and obviously that reflects the level of creative production in Lagos, and particularly in terms of film and music. But what's really important is to ensure that that is sustained. So having a robust enabling framework or environment that really focuses on the policy and the legal framework to guarantee that throughout. You could have a super successful creative enterprise, but it's going to burn out, it's going to stagnate if it doesn't have that robust enabling environment. And then finally, I just want to mention that through all of that, we really try and focus on an inclusive environment. So thinking about, you know, geography and demography as well. So yes, gender is an aspect that can, you know, cuts through everything that we do. But also the wider geography in Nigeria. So we try and ensure that, you know, the people that we work with through our different programs come from across Nigeria, but also that we use our own platforms in Kano, Port Harcourt, Abuja, and Lagos to provide free space so that these new and emerging enterprises can benefit from using them to showcase what they're doing and provide access to new audiences and potentially, you know, new markets as well. So that's something that's really important to us.
All right, and thank you so much, Donna. Very important point you made there about the enabling framework and why that is critical. Because you know, if you want 10 million youths to go into the creative sector, you want to ensure that the success factor is high. You need more people being successful in the sector. But let me bring in another gentleman here, and last but not the least, you know, Dr. Victor. And I'd love to get your take on the conversation here, and you know, how the Guild is elevating standards on one point. The Guild, is elevating standards in the industry. Also, how you're protecting creative rights and supporting professional development across the industry.
Thank you very much. The Directors Guild of Nigeria, as you know, filmmaking is a collaborative venture, which means that we have various segments. We have directors, producers. Across the value chain of filmmaking, you have no less than 200 unique individual trades, so to say. At the apex of this creativity, you find the directors. The motto of the Guild is Primus Inter Pares, which means first among equals. And I say equals because we're teammates and all. And it's important that you have a viable, creative, and working Directors Guild, because what you see at the end of the day on any screen is the imprimatur of the director, which is why you would say a film by, you may have financed it, but we call it the director's film, because obviously he would make use of all the elements to be able to tell the story that you see on the screen. And so we're well aware of the responsibility that we carry, which is why in terms of numbers, the Directors Guild may have some of the fewest, the least number of members because of the very nature. I'm proud to say that Kunle Afolayo is a member of the Guild. Just to tell you how far we have gone, the fact that we are now competing, on the global stage, on global stages like Netflix, Amazon, and the rest. I won't say competing, but that we're holding our own there. I remember looking back here and I saw one of Kunle's films. Within 24 hours, it had done about 8 point how many million views? Now, I thought someone was going to clap. In 24 hours, over 8 million people, 8 million eyeballs. You have to double that because it's times 2. So we'll be talking about 16 to 17 million eyeballs watched it, and this is data now, within that time. So what it tells you is that the Guild is alive and up to its responsibilities now. The standards are obviously getting higher. A lot of people keep judging us by the old, the way we started. And even when we started in the very early days, we were seriously challenged. We didn't have the kind of facilities that the rest of the world had, and so it was very difficult. I can tell you that we're among some of the most creative people on planet Earth. I make bold to say we taught the world to shoot on digital, because when we started, when we embraced the technology, the rest of the world was still talking about film. We saw tomorrow, we embraced it, we made it relevant, we made the world accept digital, and we made the companies improve because we're early adopters of the technology. Thank you. Now, it wasn't deliberate, but sometimes some disadvantages will force an advantage. We did it because we didn't have the money. But it's like the proverbial story of the guy who they said, I don't know if you've heard this story, there were crocodiles and the king said anyone who could swim across the pool to the other side, would get the hand of his daughter, would win the hand of he would give his daughter to the person. And suddenly a guy jumped in and found himself on the other side. And then they said to him, wow, how did you make it? He said he didn't make it, someone pushed. Someone pushed him into the water. And guess what? He had to survive. Now that's the story of Nollywood. We needed to survive, okay? It was that act of survival that forced the best out of us, and we were able to tell our stories. The rest of Africa, even if with an emerging technology at the time, the rest of Africa embraced it because indeed we're great storytellers. And, as the technology grew, we grew, and at the apex of that are the directors, who are the storytellers. So we are constantly ensuring that the standards are maintained, that not just anyone gets in there, and in any case, you can't even censor your movie with a Film and Video Censors Board unless you're a member of the Directors Guild of Nigeria. So what that simply means is you have to be good enough. And if you're, and that the standard, I'm sure we're all proud of what we see right now on Netflix. In the diaspora, they watch more of our movies than any other. When I travel abroad, people are constantly on YouTube, Netflix, Amazon. They're not watching American movies. American movies stand no chance here. Across the continent, it is still Nollywood movies. And I dare to say, earlier on you talked about diplomacy and the power, soft power. One thing we've been able to do, for me, I call this cultural neocolonialism. We are recolonizing through culture, through our films, the rest of Africa and the diaspora. You remember the days when it was just American films? Everyone wanted to talk like an American. They knew more about America than people who have even been there. But today, when you say Igwe, everyone knows what you're talking about. I've met people in South Africa who have never been to Nigeria and they speak pidgin English better than some Nigerians. That's the power of Nollywood, okay? There are people who stop their movies, and I've seen the things I'm telling you about. They stop, they pause their TV and say, that's what I want. Who are they talking to? Their fashion designer. That's the design I want. Today we're talking jollof. It is the power of our audiovisual medium. So these are the things that we've been able to do, and I want to say that we have promoted the image of this country far better than any other sector you can think about. And we continue to maintain this. We are constantly training and retraining and encouraging our members to continue training, both with institutions like CAP and the rest of them. And we encourage people coming into the industry as well to undertake this training or apprenticeship. Of course, there are two routes to get in, through formal training or apprenticeship. And I hope that the government realizes, thank God for the Creative Economy Ministry, but this is one industry that has the lowest, in terms of job creation, in terms of entry.
Area, and training, I've been saying this for a while. If you're, say for example, we have 3 major productions going on back to back in the country right now. It will be difficult to have complete professional crew for the 3 productions. Look, we claim to be the biggest in Africa or second in the world, but then we have very few professional hands. And I'm not saying, look, everybody can put stuff on YouTube, but it's completely different from, doing things, properly. What guarantees or what gives you the leverage to play on Prime and on Netflix is not just the art of storytelling or the fact that you have the best actors in the world. There is technicality side to it. Your sound must be good. As a matter of fact, they put, well, not all the films, because I've seen a lot of shitty films on Netflix and on Prime, but look, there are films, all of these films that are doing well, go and look at them very well. They are technically sound, so you cannot shove, aside that production values. And for you to have production values is not just camera and it's not just sound. You're talking production design. And under production design or art department is where you have the makeup, is where you have the costume, is where you have the props, is where you have it. And we need to train people. Again, like in our own academy, we teach what we call business of film, because that is one area that is really lacking. A lot of people can tell stories, but what is the sustainability? If British Council doesn't give you grants to make your next film, how do you survive? How do you continue? How do you get Netflix to fund your next 3 films? It's called business of film. We teach that. I won't tell you, you have to come to the academy. But the point is really, we need to train the younger generation. That is one. 2 is distribution. Of course, in the last few months, there has been, Dr. Oai and I were on the same panel when, we talked about Netflix leaving Nigeria and everybody took it like the wrong way. It's fine. But now, everybody is crying because it's the reality. All right? If our focus, before Netflix and Amazon and the other streaming platforms came, we were making film. And we had a structure where, we monetize our films, even though it wasn't. The only thing that was lacking was we were not playing internationally as we should, except a few films that have gone to festivals. My first film was in London Film Festivals, but did it get distribution afterwards? No. And that is what these big platforms have done. But again, we need to build our own platforms. We need to build, if we have one strong platform that caters for just Nigeria, caters for 200 and something million people, and you have just 10 million people watch your film, and you generate, even if it's 1 naira or 100 naira on a movie, you'll be good, right? So I think distribution is key, and I think capacity building is very important. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Capacity, skill, training, some of the key points you mentioned. Sam, how does skill look like in the next decade?
Yeah, well, for some reason, I'm being dragged into talking about film. All of una. No. Mind yourselves. No. But the tricky thing about our about the local market, let's talk about within our borders here in Nigeria, is that we have some aspects of a chicken before the horse situation. Or chicken before the egg, sorry. Don't mind me. And what I mean by that is, Kunle just talked about 200 million Nigerians. Let's stick with that number for whatever the purposes are right? But how many can afford, to pay premium prices for a movie or for music or go to concerts and so on? So there is some limit within it, which is one of the reasons we all look also to include, let's call it I think our friends from the African Union are present at the at this summit. So let's talk about the 6th region of Africa in the diaspora, which is why we look to them to also embrace what we're doing here. But Kunle has talked about 2 of the very fundamental aspects that hold back scale, which is one is people knowing, right? Same way as Kunle talked that they have a business of film. I always explain to people that and it's just a saying is that it's the music business. It's not just music, right? So just producing the music is great. It's a big part of it. It's you can't do it without it. But the amount of legal knowledge and that takes to protect that music and regulatory work and all of that to protect the intellectual property that goes into that is deep, right? So there's the capacity and the knowledge of all of our industries is a struggle, right? And trust me, it's not just here in Nigeria. Especially when I talk to practitioners in the West, right, or in the global North, as we call it, young film directors need to learn the fundamentals of the business. Young musicians need to learn. So it's not that we lack something. It's that we need to push in more because we have the capacity, we have the the talent, we have the expertise, we know that. It's about, that fundamental aspect. So that distribution and I hate to beat a dead horse, but the enabling environment, because as we continue to push this industry, we have to take a note that, there's a I don't want to be negative, but there's a fear that I have sometimes that in 10, 15 or 20 years we'll look back and say, that time that the music industry was really humming in Nigeria, right? Or that time that our this thing. And we have to be intentional about how we make sure that doesn't happen, right? I think there are probably, just as there are some fans of Nigerian music and film and content here in the room, I have to guess that there's some who are fans of K-pop and K-dramas and K-that. Korea started a very, very intentional, broad plan that started with strategizing around their creative industry in the 1980s into the 1990s. They're 30 years down the pike here. We here in Nigeria, we here in Africa have done it on our own, and we seriously need to engage and advocate for an enabling environment and for the right structures for our industries to continue to thrive.
All right, thank you so much there. You touched on something very critical there, talking about the purchasing power and disposable income. Let me get Donna to respond as well.
I would, actually, before I answer your question, I've remembered the local organization we worked with before, so I want to give them credit. Africa No Filter, as well as CC Hub, on the Creative Vibrancy Index. In answer to that question, I would have to agree. I would have to agree with my fellow panelists, and touching on what I was saying before as well. I mean, there is no lack of talent, but given the youth population that we have and the growing youth population that we have in Nigeria, but there will be aspects to further develop in terms of skills development and capacity building across the areas. I mean, I know you're speaking of specifically film, and of course we have music, fashion, across the board. And linked to that is also an accessible financing element. So there are organizations like the British Council, like others, who can provide aspects of funding, but to make that sustainable, what is there? What else can be done? And in terms of thinking about the wider international market, everything. The essence of what we do at the British Council is all about mutuality. It's about working together for mutual benefit to creatives and the market in Nigeria, but also creatives in the market in the UK. And as a result of that, there is mutual growth, there's mutual understanding, there's mutual trust, and there's a greater relationship between countries. Of course, Nigeria and the UK have always had have had a good relationship. But I would kind of bring that then to the international side. I suppose you could talk about the whole market access and distribution. So when you think about a couple of weeks ago, the UK launched its new industrial strategy. And a specific focus of that was the creative industries plan. UK takes the creative industries really seriously, 126 billion contribution to the wider economy, nearly 3 million people working in that wider, in the whole creative industry, in the whole wider creative economy. But it, in this plan, has identified Nigeria as a country, as a growth country. It wants to work with Nigeria, already has the Enhanced Trade Investment Plan. So when we think of the wider context in Nigeria, we're talking about education, skills development, the creative infrastructure, and also, I suppose, linking to what we're talking about in the wider context here is climate resilience. And they're all areas of potential collaboration, potential mutual benefit through the international lens and through international partnerships, which ultimately, one would hope, would benefit both Nigeria and the UK.
All right, and thank you so much for that. Touch on a very important point, which is funding, and that's the lifeblood for growth. Dr. Victor?
Okay, if I heard you clearly, you were talking about scale.
Yes. Also for you, I would also like to add your take on AI as well, in terms of how that could also help as the guild. Yeah.
Yeah, not a problem. So in terms of scale, permit me, I'm going to, in addition to what's been said, I'm going to deviate a little. Kunle, my brother, Afolayan, has spoken about the upscale filmmakers. Okay? But I want to say that, and I want to address particularly young people in this room right now. Not every movie must go to the cinemas. Not every movie must go to Netflix, and not every movie must even go to Africa Magic. In terms of scale, what helps scale is technology. And that's where disruptive technologies like YouTube have come in. I'm being deliberate in what I'm saying because of the people I'm addressing right now. I might not be saying that to you, but it is important that the young must grow. Okay? YouTube is a disruptive technology. The good thing it has done, amongst many things, other things, is that it has removed gatekeepers. There are many, yeah, clap if you want, because it is a fact. There are many emerging filmmakers now who want to send their movies to Africa Magic, and then they keep asking me, please, do you know somebody? How can you help me sell my movie to Africa Magic? Some say, how can you help me get to Netflix? With YouTube, you don't need any of that. What it has simply done, and I'll say, and that's the beauty of technology before I go to AI, is that if you have a phone, please raise it here. Let me see if you have a phone here. And it keeps getting better. Okay? How many of you saw the movie by Skepta? The recent movie shot on iPhone 16 Pro? But before that, when I was in Sundance a couple of years ago with one of my documentaries, that year, there was a movie, Tangerine, that was shot with iPhone 5S. I'm sure none of you, in fact, if shame go catch you to carry your iPhone 5S show for, but they shot a movie and it was, you know, quality. It was projected on cinema as far back as then. So the beauty of this technology, like I say, is it keeps getting better. You can shoot 4K now, some of them shoot higher. You can write your script here. You can do your casting here. You can, you know, shoot with this. Do your sound design here, your editing, all your post-production work, color grading. You can upload for distribution here, and guess what? You can also collect your money without going out of here. Am I right? Am I right? Several years ago, Archangel, I run a short film festival. 2012 or 2011. In fact, I still have the picture. Emanuela was not taller than this. I kid you not. She wasn't, maybe about my waist level or lower. I recognize them as far back as then. 2020, I did a paper for UNESCO, I think, at the conference. These people in Cameroon, that's, what's the film festival? Ekranwa. So they have a conference on the side. I did a paper. It was immediately after COVID. And in my research, I went to the back end. I found that Archangel was making, as at that time, between $350,000 and $420,000 monthly. Sir, I have the data. It is there in that paper. I will show you if you want. I don't know how many of our filmmakers can make that kind of money. You will look down and say, smeh. But I've conducted this research everywhere I've gone to. And I will do it here again. How many of you here know Blossom Chukwujeku? Let me see your hands up. Let me see your hands really up. How many of you here know Emanuela? Put your hands up, let me see. Try this anyway, it has never failed. You can see the difference. Now, there is a market for everybody. Okay? There is a market for cheap wine, there's a market for expensive champagne. Do you understand? The beauty of Nollywood is not just in the fact that we make films, but it is in the fact that we have been able to take people out of poverty. It's in the fact that a lot of young people are now engaged. It is in the fact that whole industries are being set up in places like Asaba, Enugu, Lekki. Say? Go to Lekki right now, the ecosystem. There are many houses there now that are only for filmmaking. You understand? I told you that along the value chain, there are over 200 unique professions. I can begin to name them. Enter a community now. And there was a movie I took. You will see it, so it's coming out somewhere there. I took to my village. I'm not a producer, but they wanted a place that had a certain kind of look, and I took them there. They spent well over 200 and something million in that community. Everybody from hotel people, Okada riders, carpenters, bricklayers, everybody. In fact, it was a carnival for that community while it lasted. That is what movie making can do in a community. I'll come to AI. Sorry.
I'm waiting.
Okay? Now, AI is a disruptive technology. Should we be afraid of it? The answer is yes and no. Yes, if you don't embrace it. No, if you embrace it. Personally, I'm an early adopter of technology. Don't be afraid of technology. At every point in time, when television came, they say it will kill radio. Did it kill radio? Even when TV came, they said it will kill cinema. It didn't kill it. The thing is, adopt technology. The internet came, and it really enhanced what you do. If you're smart right now, just assume you're an illiterate. The new ABC, the new alphabet you should learn for literacy right now has only 2 letters, A and I. There's so much that is going on right now. We need to embrace it. And for a lot of the young filmmakers here, if you embrace it early, you might even overtake the older filmmakers. But I know they will not be sleeping. So I want to say to you, take advantage of what is available right now, and I'll see you at the top.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Very important point you made there about platforms that democratize access and the impact that they have in terms of pulling people out of poverty. But let me throw the mic now to people to the audience now. If you could just ask questions. I see 2 hands up. The lady in blue, the lady in white. Okay, so we'll take 4 questions because of time. So we'll start with the lady in front, yeah, and then the lady behind her, and then the other lady in front, and then the guy here. All right.
Thank you very much. Sam, I'm one of those that my dad said, you better go and study something else instead of singing and dancing and carrying on. So I appreciate the fact that the creative industry has really, really grown in Nigeria. So I want to ask the question around, maybe furthermore around the AI industry. I've been listening to the godfather of AI, and he's saying that it's going to actually take over humans. So how's that going to affect the film industry and also the music industry in terms of content development and, you know, the whole thing? I mean, I think, you know, Mr. Victor said, you know, everything can be done on our phone, which is true. So how is that going to, how's the revolution of AI going to take over how is it going to either help or not?
I'm actually very, very, very interested to hear what Kunle has to say about this, but I'm going to first answer and say this. Oga Victor just said something that was very, very crucial to it. be afraid of AI if you don't embrace it. Because then it'll just bypass you and you'll be lost. But if you embrace it, it's not something to be afraid of. As he said, when you look at it from the bigger picture, every advent of new technology always comes with fears and predictions of all sorts. And I personally can't say where it will land tomorrow, but I know that that fundamental saying of if you embrace it, there are tools within it which are just incredible, right? And right now we're seeing a lot of nonsense from it. AI slop is annoying. I mean, it's stupid, it's dumbing down and so on. So, but I do believe that it will continue to evolve deeply. I think there's no question about that. The technology is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And those who embrace it will find unique and new ways to bring excitement to our creativity. But you?
It will be quite interesting to hear what he has to say.
Okay, well, I was on a panel, I think sometime last year, and then they mentioned this AI thing, and I outrightly said I wasn't going to use it. Because I don't like to talk to machines. I don't like to engage anything that, I don't use Shiri and all of those things. I like manual. But like 2 months ago, I've seen a lot of things that have been created, with AI on. Then there's a veteran, Tunde Kelani, who also lectures in our academy. And we were in my office, we were talking, and he showed me something that he's trying to get done with his new film, Cordelia. And I'm like, okay, biology, And he said, oh, I did this. And then he said, oh, check it out, ChatGPT, blah, blah, blah. And then I went there.
Mind blown?
And the third day, I had to call my staff, the ones in creative department. And there were like 6, 8 of them. And I said, guys, realistically, I only need like 2 of you. So I may have to fire 6 of you. Look, it's scary. You can go on and say if you embrace it, it's not gonna, no. It's gonna play its part. It will affect, for example, a lot of the things that the graphics guys are doing, a lot of the things that the creative writers are doing, it normally would take them 3, 4, 5 days. One of them is here. I got it done in 5 minutes myself. And then I went and I said, why do I need to keep you? I don't have to. I can cut down on our overheads and all of that. Look, it's going to help enhance, it's going to help develop, it's going to help. I saw a new rule that YouTube is just trying to implement, that you must use real voice. All the voiceover artists are going to that, their career will die. Right? So YouTube is just saying for you to monetize or be eligible to monetize, you must use real voice. So we sometimes we'll close our eyes and just embrace things, and then everybody, it's a campaign. The people behind AI, they're putting millions of dollars behind it, and they're just campaigning. And we're too quick to just think, we don't look at the back end, we don't look at the risk, we don't look at all of this. So for me, we're currently working on a series, and what I said to my team, we hope to film in the next 3 weeks. And I said, look, there are aspects of this series that will cost us so much, but normally before AI, we probably would do green screen or we do some visual effects, but with AI, it's easier to generate, the same characters, so we're going to use human. But when we get to the magical part of the story, we can use AI to enhance. So it's still a blend of everything. So my advice would be, embrace it too, but really, if you're in creative sector and you say, oh, for example, in film, we have people we call, like the ADs, apart from running around, they do scheduling.
Okay.
AI will break down the whole script and do schedule. Like the work of 20 people, that thing will do it in 2 minutes. So what will happen to all of those people? Okay, if they all learn all of these things that AI is doing, will you still give them the same job? No, you can't. So for me, that's my take.
All right. Kule says we should be cautiously optimistic. Yeah? All right. I think Dr. Victor wants to say something, and then the lady in white. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, thank you. Just to add to that, I mean, it's quite tricky to embrace something that is a bit spiky and that you're afraid of, but I think ultimately it's important to understand it. And for sure, there will be different perspectives across the wider creative sector, and there will be a lot of fear because of the impact that it will have on the number of opportunities, the number of jobs across all aspects of the creative sector. But I suppose there is a positive, you're talking about film, but literature, as well. A book can be written in no time at all. So there's a whole aspect that is going to be changing and maybe assessed differently as well. And when you, as someone who's enjoying aspects, someone who's buying services from the wider creative sector, maybe we'll be thinking differently about how we engage because of how we perceive AI will have been involved in the delivery of those creative services, for example. So yeah, it is a bit tricky, but maybe from the positive angle, things are changing so quickly. There will be jobs and careers and sectors probably existing in 10, 15 years' time that we don't even know what they are now. So that's an opportunity for new skills development and wider engagement and thinking about things a little bit more optimistically. So yes, I would completely agree. It is having a bit of a balanced approach, but learning to understand it and not avoiding it is important.
All right, and thank you so much. Dr. Victor?
Okay, so again, you permit me, I'm addressing a particular audience here.
Okay, that is not here.
No, that's here.
Okay.
So, if we understand the technology behind AI, how it is like an aggregation of the brains of so many people. Let me put it that way, I want to put it in a very layman's language, and such that when you ask a question, it's able to, by the very nature of the way it is made, it comes up with, let me not say the best result now, but it keeps getting better. Every new technology will stumble a bit, but it keeps getting better because even AI keeps learning and relearning, and the training continues. Even they're doing it in languages, in your own local languages now and all that. So what I want to say is this. If you have no job here right now, this is the best thing to go and learn now is AI. With a basic knowledge of screenwriting, because you do need a background in order to be able to manipulate AI to get the best result. Because the prompts that you're giving, in this case now the instructions that you're giving it, is based on the knowledge that you have. That's what you use to tweak and tweak till you get the very best. So if you get a basic knowledge, I guarantee you that if you use AI well, because you're aggregating the best brains available, you will do better than people who are considered the best people in an industry right now. So if you want to move ahead, shoot yourself ahead, please don't just embrace AI, hug it like your life depends on it. Okay? And it is better now that it's at its early stage. There are people who will say, I'll say this before I drop the mic. I was talking to some people recently and they were saying, no, AI will make you lazy to do this, you do that. I said, okay, so Why are you using washing machine? Why are you using a car? Why are you not riding horse to go to work? Why are you using calculator? Why are you not proving you're a mathematician by using your pencil to do all the calculations and all that? If technology makes life easy, bro, I want to use my time to do better things. Okay? I don't want to use my brain and my energy on what can already be done. It's like you hire staff, you want to do their job. Okay? So what AI is like, or what technology is like hiring staff. Let them focus on that. Then you use your brain to do easier and better things. Thank you.
Thank you. So the lady in white there, just your name and direct your question to the panelists.
My name is Yeye Adenike Shobaju. I'm a public relations practitioner. I'm into CSR, and I rose to become Vice President of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you. For AI, I am a stock of the old school, but I'm AI compliant. Kule, since I said I belong to the old school, you know, I've watched your dad and the rest of you with your brother and everything. I think you're doing very well. Before I say anything, I cannot sit down without acknowledging Peju. This is a fantastic lady. You all agree with me, don't you?
100%.
I was here last year, and I made up my mind that I will give the 2 days to Sterling One. I will be here from 10 to 6 o'clock for the 2 days, and I did that last year, and I'm here again this year. Peju, thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you. Kule, you said, I think you said, yes, I saw you in my dream yesterday. Please don't laugh, because what I'm going to say is funny. I saw you in my dream last night. I'm 73 years old. Is it too late for me to come and start acting? So that's on a lighter note. I wanted to ask you, I told you I'm a public relations practitioner. I want you to let me have an idea. What's the nexus between what you do as artists? You know, before we started this morning, we had the bata and all that. You know, there's a nexus between what you do as artists and public relations. Can you speak a little bit about that? Thank you.
Well, I think as artists, we're also public relation officers, you know, because earlier today I was having a meeting with someone, and we were talking about brand association. And I went back to the partnership that we've done with brands. I mean, if you put Kunle Afolayan, or if you ask anybody, do you know Kunle Afolayan? Most people will say, oh, I know him, he's a filmmaker. Only a few people will say, oh, he's an actor. And some people will say, oh, he's a businessman. He's a drinker. Okay. So, but really, the honest truth is, we are PR advocate for Nigeria. And that is why the creative space or the creative industry in Nigeria is what put Nigeria in that, you know, limelight on, you know, on a global scale. Every year, you know, when they have this kind of talks and this kind of, they quote figures. Most of those figures, I don't even understand, because they will say GDP, creative economy has contributed, can it come billion to GDPs? Yeah, I don't see the money. I don't even know where those figures are coming from. But the honest truth is, in terms of image making, the only reason why the French, we've done a lot with the French. I'm still going to come to you, but I have after this, we have our own meeting. But really, the French Cultural Center has done so much for the creative sector. Like 30 years ago, I'm always at the French, Cultural Center on, what's it called? Alliance Francaise, and that was where the likes of Asha and the rest of them were discovered. Why is the French embracing non-French speaking people? 2016, we did a partnership with Air France. I don't speak, French. I speak bonjour, bonsoir, d'accord, oui, voilà, things like that. But then we formed a partnership that changed the entire narrative. Before then, I was, gold flyer on Virgin Atlantic. But after we signed that, when people are looking for their luggage, they call me to say, oh, your people have, how? Because I was in France for a film festival. I met the commercial director of Air France. They said, oh, we'd like to do things with you. We got to Nigeria, and then we signed this deal to partner with the CEO film. I don't know if you've seen CEO. The CEO. We had a premiere on the plane, and we were given a whole plane, and we took 220 people to France free of charge. Who am I? I'm an artist. Right? So those are the kind of things we leverage. We leverage existing structures, but then we bring our own face, we bring our achievement, we bring our goodwill, the good name, we attach it to a brand, another brand, and then it becomes, a partnership of mutual benefit. We're currently doing that with Sterling Bank because, our resort in Oyo, we're trying to get electric vehicles. We've done solar, partnership with them and all of that. So I think an average artist is also a PR person. But if, as an individual, the person cannot or does not have the skill to push that aspect of his life, then you get a manager who can do it. But for me, God has really blessed me, to be able to speak for myself and to be able to sell myself. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And I think that speaks to what we're talking about today, soft power, the intangible contributions that this can bring. Let me take the last question here today. I guess we're fast spent with time. Okay, two more questions. One, and the lady, there's the final question. Okay, all right.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Salis Yusuf. I'm a principal officer, Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy. And I want to ask Mr. Kule, you talked a lot on sustainability of the industry, and you also talked on establishing an academy. So my question now is, do you see our national policy on education, or rather our educational curriculum, as a challenge to the sector? If yes, what is the way forward? Thank you.
Well, education can be, for me, I think education can be defined in like different kind of ways. This AI thing that we just talked about is a form of education. And that is why everybody's saying, oh, go embrace it, go study it and all. But if you're a fan of K-drama, Korean series and stuff, can you wave? Good, okay. I want to be okay with him. Okay, see, I'm a Nigerian, I'm a patriotic Nigerian, but I sleep on those shows. I watch a lot of them. Why? Because they've held on to their literature. And that is education. There is hardly any Korean series you watch. And the thing is, we have like a lot of similarities in our culture. So you could relate with those stories, And this is like a campaign. It's like, I think it's like a national campaign in that country to say, let's push our agenda, let's push our literature, But here, I won't say we are cursed, but I'll say we we need a savior. Really, because one, in schools, the curriculums have changed. We grew up on Alawiye, we grew up on, a lot of, storybooks and all. And those can be converted to like film, to short film, to feature film. But now we don't have, our literature is dying, pretty much. And something needs to be done. If you want to do, this morning before I came, I lectured at a school, because I teach production design and directing. And I was saying to them, because we were referencing some films, and I was showing them some things in October 1. And I said, look, before we got here, the minute we decided we were going to make a film set in 1960, I started doing research, not just as a director or producer, but even as a costume person, as a props person. Most of the props we used in the film, I bought them before hiring a props man, because I knew what they were. All right? So education is not you just going to class. Education is you embracing information around you. I've had several meetings with the Marine, with actually both Air Force and the Navy, and we've been trying to do films, with them and all. And I remember when we had the first meeting, I went back online and I started reading a lot about, how to train, what it entails to be in certain rank and all of that. You'd need all of that. So I think my own advice would be, to the younger, I'm young too, but I'm saying to our generation and the generation younger than us, we need to take as much information as you can from every available, then put it to use. You don't have to take and run with everything, but take the one that you think appeals to you and will guide you in your journey. And yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. And we'll take the final question from the lady, and then.
Hello, thank you very much to the esteemed panelists for your insights. And my name is Etemere Glover, CEO of the Impact Investors Foundation. I hear Victor, Mr. Victor. I also hear Mr. Folayan. My question is around efficiency and effectiveness. We have the value chains of your industry, and you mentioned distribution and marketing. That's two areas where we are not seeing a lot of, there's gaps in it. And you mentioned, Mr. Victor, about YouTube. But my fear is not all platforms are good platforms or efficient platforms. How are we channeling efforts to address the gaps in the value chain for efficiency and scalability of the industry? I see every week movies coming out in YouTube. How much comes to the pockets of the producers and even the actors? That's the first question I have. Second question is, do we know Circuit TV? I think there's a platform called Circuit TV that is addressing the distribution channel in your industry. Now Netflix has left. We now have a huge gap. So how do we come together and ensure that we have a local platform that will ensure we get our movies out to the market and bring money to the pockets of the actors and the producers? If we keep waiting for Netflix, YouTube, monies will not get to them, then there's no sustainability and we are not getting our people across the value chain empowered. So I'd like us to reflect, work together and ensure that we address this gap in the distribution and the marketing space in your industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'm going to talk about maybe a couple of models now, and then we'll look at it, and then I'll say to people, you decide. If you have 100 million, as an example, although you can't use that to do any big movie today, but assuming, let's say 100 or say 300 million, you have 2 or 3 choices. You can give that to only one filmmaker to make a film, the whole 300 million. Or you can give it to maybe 10 filmmakers at 30 million each. They will still employ the same number of people. Like I said, these are choices. It depends on what the priority is. But I think that, and when I say this, please don't get me wrong, I'm a purist for film and I want the highest of standards and all that. But I'm also a realist. If we want to wait, let me just put it this way. Anybody waiting to be perfect will never take off. Am I correct? The easiest way not to do anything is to want to be a perfectionist. Can you do something, whether I can do it or not, say yes, then figure out how to do it later. How many of you agree with me here? Collect the job first, then figure out how to do it. And along the way, you will get better. Or else, you hire the people who will help you to accomplish it. And so, there is the argument that, oh, if you go to YouTube, all the films that are being done in Lekki now, all the real estate there that people are renting for movies, they're all going to YouTube. The number of people who are working in Lagos today, now that Netflix is no longer on, most of them are going to YouTube. How many are even going to Africa Magic? The truth is, the industry cannot die. Okay? There will be room for everybody. And so I want to say, let the eagle perch. Let the kite perch. I will not add the rest of it. All will survive, is what I will say. So, but one thing I have learned is, and this is what I use in closing, let us learn from, what's his name? Markangel. When Markangel started, honestly, I guarantee, until people discovered how much money he was making, no filmmaker in Nollywood will even want to sit in the same room with him. Although I saw his potential well over 12, 13 years ago. Because they will feel he's not a filmmaker. Yeah. But today he can hire the best filmmakers to work for him. He has a separate channel where he does better films. Okay? But he started with nothing like Nollywood started and got better in the process. If he had been killed or condemned, what I mean, if his dream had been killed earlier on, and if he was condemned when he was just emerging, we wouldn't know that he can do what he can do today. Okay? So I want to say again, I understand the fears. They are legitimate and valid fears, but let each person operate in his area. Just this morning I read something on Facebook about Wizkid when he was with EMA. He didn't know too much at the time. When he left, even his rights, you know the story, they are still there with EMA. But he has since moved on. Today he's wiser. But the reason he's wiser is that he started somewhere, got better, knew better, and then took charge of his destiny. I want to say, start from wherever you are. It doesn't matter. You will get better, you will get smarter, you will get wiser, and you will take charge of your destiny.
All right, then, thank you so much for that. We're fast spent with time, and we're going to end with the final chat, but it's going to go in this way. I'll start with a sentence, and then you're going to end it for me. Basically, it's going to be, for Africa's creative industry to grow, we must, then you complete the sentence. So I'm going to start with Donna. For Africa's creative industry to grow, we must...
We must continue to invest in young people and set up a creative infrastructure and skills fund, because the blockage isn't a lack of talent, it's ensuring that there is adequate education, skills development, financing, and all of that to open the doors to the wider creative sector and ensure that growth is created, which is sustainable and also climate resilient.
All righty. Kole, for Africa's creative industry to grow, we must.
Well, we must continue to tell the African stories and at the same time make money. Thank you.
All right.
Kule,
Right
you
on the
stole
money.
my own. I was going to
Sam,
say,
for Africa's creative industry to grow, we must.
we must continue to share the pepper.
Money must go around.
Money must go around. And we have to protect all that incredible creativity.
All right. And Dr. Victor, for Africa's creative industry to grow, we must.
It starts with you, start with what you have, where you are, and just do it.
All right, with that, we end this conversation, the Creative Economy Roundtable. I'm Kenneth Gomo. Thank you so much for your time. Amazing audience. Thank you for staying to the end. And you got the value at the end of the conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Please, a round of applause for our panel and our moderator. There is a film screening tomorrow. Of course, you know, the final day of the ASIS is always something great. So be sure to be here tomorrow. It's Friday. New movies come out on Friday. It's going to be a film screening, so you want to be here for that. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great day, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much.